Today we're going to be talking about the semi-automatic rifles of the Winter War. First things first, the questions we're going to be answering are which rifles were used and some context surrounding them. How did the Finns get them and in what amounts? What was the experience of the Finnish soldiers using them? Sources for the video can be found in the description below, but I just wanted to thank the authors of the Jaeger Platoon website. If you're interested in anything Finnish and army related, especially World War II, you should really check them out. Great resource. This would have been way harder without them. Alright, so let's get the pressing issue out of the way. To my knowledge, the only semi-automatic rifles used in the Winter War were the AVS-36 and the SVT-38. Probably familiar to some of you. To give some context, the Soviet Union invested considerable funds in the research and development of a semi-automatic rifle. I'd say rivaled only by the US at this point. Besides a few obscure prototypes like maybe the Fedorov and some French World War I developments, pretty much the AVS-36 and the M1 Garand were the only ones at this point. They were at the cutting edge of small arms innovation. So, as the name suggests, the rifle AVS-36 was accepted for service in 1936, and on paper it's really something. A detachable 15-round box magazine, 7.62 by 54R select fire at 800 rounds per minute, clocking in at only 4.3 kilos. All of this in 1936, that's pretty top notch. So that's a significant step up from what the vast majority of soldiers would have used in the last months of 1945, like nearly a decade later. And the rifle itself stemmed from a requirement for a fully automatic, full power, cartridged infantryman's rifle. And the subsequent trials conducted in 1926, 28, 1930, these trials didn't lead to adoption of a new rifle, even though hard-hitting names like Tokarev and Degtyarev were involved. In 1931, a new round of testing started, which saw an order of 400 rifles of the Simonov and Tokarev design be placed for 1934/35. These were all competing designs in the 31 trial, with the end result being the adoption of the Simonov design. Hence AVS, as in Simonov, according to the Russian naming scheme for weapons. Production of the AVS started at the Izhevsk plant in 1937. The cutting edge of development is never really the easy route, and a few major problems were encountered pretty much right away. These may include cost of production. It's probably fair to say that these were incredibly time-consuming and required a lot of specialized labor compared to your run-of-the-mill Mosin Nagant. Excessive full auto recoil. So 800 rounds per minute of 7.62 by 54 tends to do that when you fire it from a rifle that weighs almost the same as a wet towel. Sensitivity to dirt and extreme temperature, so problems with dirt getting into the gun and messing with the bolt, different malfunctions due to metals expanding, so on and so forth. And also there were some malfunctions due to the variations in ammunition, but I wouldn't blame that on the firearm itself. Now, these experiences led to new trials being ordered for 1938, which set the stage for Tokarev's improved version of the AVS that also won. Tokarev's winning design is what became the SVT-38, and as a side note, there seems to have been some amount of nepotism and party involvement in the decisions to go with Tokarev. The argument being that he was a much more proven designer and already like a household name in the Soviet arms industry. Sources disagree, but the consensus seems to be that somewhere around 34,000 AVS-36s were produced by the outbreak of the Winter War. Alright, so Enter SVT-38. The SVT-38 production started sometime during 1939, replacing the AVS-36 production line. Existing AVS-36s would still stay in service, and a small number of sniper, or what would probably be called today designated marksman rifle, DMRs, were ordered for the Simonov pattern, using the PU scope or PE, you know the one. The SVT-38 is, if you ask me, a more sensible design, borrowing a lot from the predecessor, the AVS. A 10-round detachable magazine, a better ergonomics, improved muzzle brake, and simplified production line. Pretty much a step up in most departments compared to the AVS. Same caliber, same concept, except the removal of select fire capabilities. About the same weight. It's pretty much what you would expect from a trial that was specifically set out to improve on the AVS-36. Somewhere around 31,000 SVT-38s were produced by the end of 1939. And if you want to know more about these two rifles, the mechanics of them, history, development, so on and so forth, I've linked the corresponding videos to Forgotten Weapons episode on them. They're both excellent, worth a look if you're interested. During the initial phases of the Winter War, a considerable amount of Soviet equipment would end up in Finnish hands due to encirclements, poor battlefield planning and execution on the Red Army side, at least initially. And today we know that over 3,000 SVT-38s were captured during the Winter War, so 1939 to 40. Now, these rifles were popular among soldiers as war trophies, but also as replacement rifles, since they offered a lot of advantages compared to the Mosin Nagants they were lugging around at the time. I haven't been able to find any numbers for the AVS-36, and if you have access to that information, please leave a comment so I can follow up on it. But pictures do exist, like here we have a soldier with AVS-36, one with the Lahti Saloranta LS-26, and one with, I think it's a SVT-38. I know propaganda photos, but still, there's a few of them out there. The Finnish experience of these rifles, from what I've read, is pretty much, this is pretty neat. It broke? Alright. The fudlore, or what you want to call it, surrounding these rifles is quite thick, and I think what's written about the rifles is mostly negative on the Finnish side. Now keep in mind that anyone who had the chance probably would pick one up and use that instead of their Finnish Mosin or their Soviet Mosin. Unreliable and fragile seems to be the consensus, but at the grunt level, the benefits seem to outweigh the cons. Most notes that exist are on the SVT-40, which would start to show up not during this war, during the continuation war, but the problem seems to be spanning the entire spectrum from AVS-36, also including the SVT-38 and 40. But here's a list of problems that the Ordnance Department in Finland reported on the SVT. So the rifle stock integrity, weak. Receiver, weak, and it has a tendency to bend. Chamber, sensitive to dirt. Gas piston jumps out of alignment, preventing the bolt from closing. Residual gunpowder leads to rust on the gas piston. If not maintained properly, gas regulator can unintentionally move. And parts interchangeability wasn't that great. sa-kuva also did a report on the SVT-38 in 1940, coming to pretty much the same conclusions. If you ask me, these reports might be a bit biased, and there's singers like sa-kuva's "the sling mechanism sucks because the magazine sticks out," which, if you ask me, point to the unwillingness to see the pros of the rifle. Like, certainly there were a lot of issues with the rifle, but if you want a 15-round detachable magazine, some things are gonna stick out somewhere. Same thing for the residual gunpowder messing with the gas piston. If you don't clean your rifle, it probably won't work forever. Now, the biggest concern for a big army was the lack of spare parts. Since Finland didn't have their own production line, that forced them to cannibalize other guns to keep them running. So, yeah, they break down a lot. With the right soldier at the right time, they can really make a difference. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I will be making a lot more Winter War and Continuation War content. I have somewhere around 60 videos I would like to make, but it's going to take some time. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments and I will try to respond to them. My sincerest thanks to the authors over at jagerplatoon.net. They have done all of the hard work and heavy lifting for this, and I feel that their work is worth way more credit than it's given to them. Go check them out, link in the description. And all the pictures used today, besides one, are from the Finnish Army picture bank sa-kuva. And if you're interested in the Winter War or Continuation War Finnish photography, it's pretty much all there. Alright.